Welcome to Startup TV. My name's Michael McCarthy, and I want to welcome my first guest of the show, Fred Hanna. Welcome, Fred.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
This is our first show in a multiple series on startups that take place in the Boston area. There are tons of startups in this area, and the whole purpose of this show is to highlight for 15 to 30 minutes different startups in different sectors. And the idea came from my position at Harvard University as a teaching assistant at the Harvard University Extension School in the Entrepreneurship and Innovation class. As the teaching assistant, I work under Professor Jim Fitchett and Bill Wellman, and Fred is one of our students. A few weeks ago, we had some venture capitalists who came as guest speakers. And one of the things that I picked up on what they talked about was they see so many people that want their attention, want to give them a pitch, and they have to whittle through all the people who they think are qualified to listen to, and they have to be very defensive of their time. And I thought to myself, what if I could standardize pitches, venture capital pitches that limited them to 10 to 15 minutes, but had all the information that the venture capitalists wanted to look at, and instead of trying to schedule interviews with people, instead, they just tune into the TV show. And if they like the pitch, they keep watching and they contact you. If they don't like the pitch, they just look at another show. So Fred, as my first guest, Fred, I'm curious, why did you sign up for the class at Harvard Extension, the entrepreneurship class?
I signed up because I wanted to meet, I already had an idea, and I was thinking about different ways of executing it, and I wanted to meet like-minded people who could possibly be teammates on starting a company. And a lot of them I know, companies start and fail all the time. I wanted to do it right, and I wanted insight about how to do it right, and who to do it with. So that's what led me to taking the course.
And do you live in Boston?
No, in New York.
So how do you come to the weekly class?
Incidentally, I sometimes do business anyway in Monday, which is when the course is. Otherwise, I just come up, take the train or drive up for the course.
That's dedication.
Yeah, it's worth it.
I've actually been the teaching assistant for the Entrepreneurship and Innovation class for almost 5 years now. We actually had someone who flew in from Chicago every night. We had another guy, he came from Florida every week. So what I liked about those students is they really worked. They were going to get their money's worth. They really did. So you had an idea before you came to the class.
Yes, yeah. I had a couple of different ones. The class also helped decide which one to pursue, because ideas, people say, are a dime a dozen, and it helped me focus on which one is the best one to at least start out with.
So can you share with us the one that you actually settled on? Yeah,
so it's a healthcare platform, and it's one of the biggest things going on right now, healthcare costs. And no one knows how much different doctors are for the same procedure. There's just very minimal transparency into that. And the reason I started is because my sister and brother-in-law had a couple kids, and it was the same procedure, standard, same hospital, same doctors, but the bill was nearly double the second time. It was just shocking, and you don't normally know this stuff, and we only started caring because their plan changed. Well, the way their plan used to be, nobody really looked at the bill. You paid a small portion, most of the rest goes to insurance. And now they have this different one where they pay everything out of pocket up front up until a certain amount. And once you hit that amount, then insurance starts to help. So because of the situation we're now put in, we now need to know, where to shop. We've all of a sudden become healthcare shoppers, and we've had no guidance about where to shop, where, and what it's exposed is. A lot of times within the same city, two different doctors, same procedure, will have totally different costs, sometimes 80–90% difference. So this is a service that helps you identify the different costs for different doctors, and the ratings and everything else that comes with helping you decide where to go.
So this sounds potentially similar to an experience that I had. I used to pay a few $100s a month for insurance. I believe they call it the copay. You give about $10 or $20 to the doctor, and then everything was free. Everything was taken care of.
Yeah.
Now, my insurance, I believe, is $400 a month. I never get sick, by the way. And my deductible is $4,000. So when I went for my annual physical last year, really just to check to see if my doctor was doing okay, I got a bill for $1,000 that I had to pay out of pocket, and I was furious because I had been paying $400 a month and got nothing for that, and then I had to pay $1,000 for the medical. Is this similar to the experience that you're having?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, you're paying anyway monthly, which is called the premium, and then you're forced to put in an amount from your pre-tax income at the beginning of every year on the side, and you have to spend from that amount until you hit your deductible. So once you spend for an individual about $3,000, for a family $5,000, sometimes $7,000. Once you spend all of that, and that's all the routine stuff, starting from January 1st, antibiotics, a rash, whatever it is, doctor's visits, pretty standard stuff. Once you spend thousands of dollars out of pocket, then, and only then after you spend your deductible, insurance starts to help pay for some of the expenses. So it's a situation 20 million people are in now and growing at 15% a year, that number of people. And they have almost no guidance about where to go. I mean, it's your saved up money, and you really don't want to spend all that pre-saved up amount. You want to be careful with it, and you don't know if, you don't know that one doctor is $100 and another one's $300 for the same thing, because there's no transparency about that, and that's what we're providing. We're helping the consumer, the patient, make a better decision.
So let me be crystal clear. I like things to be incredibly simple.
Yeah.
How can you help me with my situation? How can you help me? How can you help your relatives that had the same issue? What can you do with your idea?
So we're starting with both a website and a mobile platform and application. So you'll be able to type in a medical procedure, and we give you a list of all the doctors in your area. You can type in a procedure or a product or a service, and it gives you a list of the healthcare providers in your area that provide that, and at what cost. Every search result guarantees savings, because not only does it give those in the area, it lists those slightly outside the area, and it gives suggestions about, oh, well, are you sure you picked this one, but there's one only a few miles away that's this much less. And that stuff isn't very transparent, and we make it transparent.
So, for example, I know that the first $4,000 that I spend is coming out of my pocket, no matter what I'm giving to the insurance company.
Right.
And you're trying to you're trying to be economical with my first $4,000 by shopping me around to doctors.
Yeah. Yeah. So your deductible is $4,000.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So, and you save up these. This is called a health savings account. You're allowed to save some of your pre-tax income to pay toward your deductible. And if you don't, say you're about you have $2,000. Do you know how much you have saved up out of that $4,000 to pay for that $4,000?
I'm self-employed, so I don't have a.
Okay, so for you,
I just pay cash.
Yeah, so you have to pay cash. So I'm trying to help you not spend all that $4,000, because if your deductible is $4,000 and you only have $2,000 saved up, the $2,000 is pre-tax income. If you spend $2,000, you have to spend $4,000 before insurance kicks in. So from $2,000 to $4,000, that's totally out of pocket. You really don't want to spend that $2,000. So I'm helping you not reach that $2,000. Make the dollar go longer.
So you're stretching my dollars for the deductible that I have to pay up front.
Yes.
So let's say I know I need an annual physical. Mm-hmm. I can type in my procedure, I need an annual physical, type in my location, my zip code perhaps, and then I get a list of doctors.
Yeah.
Is that what you do?
Right. So for these patients, this type of consumer who has a health savings account or HSA, A lot of preventative procedures are covered, like physicals. Only a very few are covered. Many, most are not. And that's exactly what it does for those procedures.
So what I'd like to do is hear your pitch. I understand that when you go to venture capitalists, they want to see what's called your deck, which is your
Right.
PowerPoint slides,
Yep.
telling us all about it. I'd like to see your slides. I'd like to hear your presentation. And when we're done, I'd like to ask you some candid questions that venture capitalists would actually ask you. And I don't want to tell you ahead of time what those questions are.
Okay.
Would you,
Yeah.
would you be willing
Let's do
to
it.
play ball with me?
Go for it.
Okay, why don't we start off with your PowerPoint? Is your PowerPoint ready?
It is, yeah.
Okay, why don't we begin and hear your presentation in your own time?
So it's a story about my brother-in-law and sister, and this is a real situation. So once upon a time, there was a couple in love, and they decided to move into a lovely cottage. And a little while later, they had a baby, and a few years later, another bundle of joy. And they got a bill. So Daddy and Mommy got a bill, and they didn't know why. There was a huge difference between the cost of those pregnancies. Same doctors, same hospitals, same procedure, nearly twice the bill. And it turned out that it's because the hospital maternity ward was renovated, and they passed on those those costs to my brother-in-law and sister. So it's the same procedure. So how do you know how much you're going to be paying for yourself? This applies to many other procedures. A mammogram in New York City alone, within the city, there's almost nearly a 90% difference between two different facilities, two different hospitals within the city. This is not going outside. It's not just expensive because it's New York. This is within the city itself. A lot of the same for Dallas, LA, the San Francisco Bay Area. Huge discrepancies, huge price differences between the same procedure from folks down across town. So how do you find out who to go to and how good they are and if that difference is worth it? We have, our service is DocDocGo. DocDocGo is what these patients will use to compare healthcare providers in the same city or in different cities or in certain regions. It does what many other services, Hotels.com, Priceline, Expedia, Kayak, and TripAdvisor, did for the travel industry. It provided transparency. It gives people choices. You don't just go to your usual doctor. You don't have to. Now that you have choices, it gives you a more informed decision and empowers you to decide where to go. So how do we make money out of this? Well, the hospital gives the patient a price, or the doctor. We have the prices of everybody in the country. We compare those prices. The patient puts in the medical procedure or service, and we let them know for the same procedure what everybody else is charging. We also give them the rating, so they can decide whether or not that difference is worth it. So not a lot of people used to care about how much it was because many did, and many still do, have what I'll call traditional health insurance. The normal insurance we all know, which is basically you go to the doctor, you pay a little copay out of your pocket, most of the rest goes to insurance. That's going away. The new plan is a mandatory health savings account, or HSA, where you have to put aside some of your pre-tax income in the beginning of the year and use it to pay for the first few $1,000s of medical expenses throughout the year. And if you didn't save up the total amount that you need to save up before insurance kicks in, called the deductible, then everything from all your savings after that to your deductible is out-of-pocket cash. This till now created a situation where 20 million people are in this situation and growing at 15% per year. These folks also could pay for things that insurance doesn't even cover, like acupuncture, assisted living and long-term care, weight loss services, glasses, LASIK if you don't want glasses anymore, dental costs, which are huge even with dental insurance, Many procedures this could also be used for. DocDocGo is what these folks will use to compare healthcare providers for the same procedure. They type in a medical procedure or product, and it lists everybody in the area and outside the area that provides it. It's guaranteed savings in every search result. So you won't get what a lot of platforms have right now where you list everybody, but they're all the same price. Then it's not a very helpful service. Our research found that a lot of people are willing to go, on average, 21 minutes to a doctor. And sometimes, and many times, when you list it in terms of miles, people think that's very far away. We also include it in terms of minutes. So some place that's 12 miles away might only be a few minute difference between that's 6 miles away, because now that you're farther, you're taking the highway. It's not much of a difference in time. So it's guaranteed savings in every search result. We are able to get these savings because we let patients with these pre-saved up cash liquid funds that they're required to save up pay doctors who would rather give significant, very steep discounts than incur the overhead of billing insurance and chasing non-payment. Our nearest competitor has about 0.5% of this cash health savings account market. The out-of-pocket medical expenses market, medical spending, healthcare spending, is $416 billion a year and growing to 600 in a couple of years. Of that, last year, people with these health savings account HSAs put aside $19 billion, almost $20 billion aside in these health savings accounts at the beginning of the year. By the end of the year, they almost spend it all. Some of them spend all of it and then some. We charge 7% of the appointment for these patients for procedures with the doctor. It comes from the doctor. So that doctor normally, if you go and want to pay cash, you'll get 30 to 40% on many times. But you don't know how much they are, the list cost originally, and you can't always get that discount. Because we provide that discount, we take some of that discount and pass it on from the doctor and pass on the rest of the savings, somewhere between 30 and 40%, to the patient. That 7% is $1.34 billion. Here's what we'll be doing in the next couple of years that will make us the most prepared company to meet the demand of the increasing HSA consumer market. These plans are going away in a couple of years, a lot of the traditional health insurance plans where you just pay a copay. A lot of HSA plans are moving in. Some states don't even provide individual traditional health insurance plans anymore. The first phase is we're going to build the platform that connects the customers with the service providers. And that involves tech support, the customer service center to start off with, because people want to call in a lot of times. And it's divided into 3 years. The first phase is our R&D. We're building and developing the platform. After that, we go live. We continue developing, and by the end of the we're cash positive in about 2 years. And in the after the third phase, after the third phase, the development is done. Our financial plan shows that after about 2 years, we become cash positive. And our break-even point, and it is in about 8 quarters. Our marketing is going to start with creating awareness, local awareness, Facebook groups, those with HSA markets. A lot of the competitors right now, even the biggest, are not targeting HSA consumers. They just want the cash market. We're specifically targeting HSA and where they spend and the type of consumers they are and their employers. Some of these are large group plans, so we target the consumers. So we look for those who are employed by certain groups and encourage them to join certain Facebook groups and have promotions that appeal to them and are located where they visit, where they normally go. So that includes promotions and ads, and we increase the reach. So our funding plan, this is how you could get into this. It's a C Corp structure we have set up, and the total investment needed is $750,000. We have our own skin in the game. $250,000 from us, from the founders. So we need $500 from you, from investors. It's 100,000 shares, $50 each will be issued. The founders have a 90% stake, and the outside investors have the remaining 10%. Exit strategy is either an IPO, a buyback after initial 3 years, or selling to a friendly buyer. Our organizational chart has our CEO and the Chief Marketing Officer and Chief Operations Officer, and also our Technology Officer. So those are the 3 branches. Under the marketing is sales and marketing, and of course the operations would include the inside-facing customer service center, and all the investors' relations will be taken care of by the CEO. Healthcare costs are only going up. The HSA market is growing. A lot of the cash buyers are reducing because of the fines that they'll incur from not having a type of insurance plan. This created a situation where people are forced for the first time to shop for health insurance, and they have no guidance about how to shop. We empower the patient, the consumer, to make the best choice about where to spend that amount they saved up in the beginning of the year, and how to spend it, make it go a long way. Join us in the oncoming healthcare revolution. It starts now.
Very nice.
Thank you. So it's, I'm very passionate about it because a lot of folks they're literally going broke from spending everything they saved up in the beginning of the year and then some.
Tell me what you think of this strategy, or really what people are actually going to do. Do you think people are going to not have health insurance, just pay out of pocket, perhaps use your service to find the cheapest route to go? Then when they get in real trouble, they'll sign up for insurance?
Yeah, so I think many that don't sign up initially will have to go that route, but they may not always be accepted into the insurance plan they want. If you're saying they'll sign up after they get sick or
Yes.
after they're in trouble. Yeah, so it's going to be a challenge getting an insurance plan because many companies will not sign someone up at that point based on whatever conditions. And if they do, it'll be very, very expensive, much more than if you signed up initially. Because now that you have this huge illness and they already know you have it, the premiums, the monthly amount you pay, regardless of if you use it or not, will be exceptionally high. In which case you'll just be forced to continue not having insurance and likely go into debt, unfortunately, like many do.
So let me ask you some of the random questions, and you have no idea what they are. This is the fun part for me.
Here we go.
The barrier to entry, what is holding you back from starting this today?
Yeah, so there are multiple frames of reference when discussing barrier to entry. So our barrier is differentiating the way we want to. So we have a strategic profile that very clearly differentiates from the competitors in the marketplace right now because they just list doctors and their prices. What we want to do is not only list the estimated costs for doctors for a certain procedure, we want to get the real costs. We don't want to just many are using the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare publicly listed costs about what doctors typically charge for a medical procedure, not what they actually expect to get paid. So what we want is what they actually get paid and expect to from patients. And the only way to do that is by asking the patients themselves. So the only way to do that, of course, is by having a platform that encourages patients to let us know what they paid for certain procedures at certain doctors. That's a unique platform that nobody has right now. And to set that up, that's what the initial cost, quite a bit of that will go to, that unique platform. And that's our barrier to entry. We want to be prepared and differentiate before we go in.
So that leads me to the other question. How are you going to make sure that you know the prices that you're quoting, that the doctor's telling the truth, that they're actually accurate numbers, and you're telling us that you're going to have patients actually saying, yeah, this procedure really did cost me $500. That's what you're proposing to do?
Yeah, so we have both. We have both the public, this is public information, publicly listed from Centers of Medicare and Medicaid and from other private sources, what doctors typically bill and what they get reimbursed. And just from that, you could tell there's a huge difference for some doctors in the same area expecting a much higher amount than others. So we're going to get information from that and also aggregating data from real patients. One of the ways users can sign up is it's a free service, completely free to the user. It encourages them to what's basically a donation of information. Let us know how much you paid for any physician for a procedure. And the more users see that many others are sharing this, they will as well. It's confidential, it's anonymous, it just helps us aggregate that data to know how much they are really spending, the real amount. So, and we cross-reference that with the amount the doctors typically bill, and we give them a range for what each doctor typically bills for that procedure.
So you're bringing transparency to the healthcare cost market.
Yes.
And you're helping people save money by being able to shop for the same procedure and perhaps find it for a lower price.
Yes.
That's
exactly.
the basic idea of what you're doing.
It is, exactly. And not only, it's not just about cost. People don't just need a place to shop. They don't know how to shop. When you're comparing two doctors, you see like a Google star rating for two doctors and then their prices, but how do you know one is better than the other? One might not be worse a neurologist might not be worse at neurology. They just may not see they may see trauma issues related to neurology and not diabetic neurology nerve issues. That doesn't make them a worse neurologist, that's just not exactly what they do. And you can't look them up by subspecialty because there's no specific diabetic neurology subspecialty. It's just something they're better at. So we help them know not just how much it is, but not just where to shop, but how to shop. What's the difference between these doctors or facilities, and what's the difference? That includes institutional ratings by authorities, the bodies, governing bodies, for labs or where to go, and how facilities really compare for specifically what you need. And it won't be the same for everybody.
I like this. However, let's talk a little bit about the venture capitalists.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to put $250,000 of your own funds, called bootstrapping. When you put your own money in, that's called bootstrapping.
Yep.
So you're going to bootstrap for the first $250,000.
Mm-hmm.
They love that.
Mm-hmm.
I've bootstrapped all of my businesses. Now, the other $500,000 you're going to be going for from the venture capitalists.
Right.
How are you going to be using their money?
That's going toward the development of the platform itself. We're able to start small because we are starting specifically in Chicago, reason being, and in dermatology. Reason being, Illinois has the highest number out of the 20 million health savings account consumers in the country. Illinois has a whole one and almost a half million of them. It has the most HSA consumers in the country. And dermatology, out of the top 10 most expensive health visits, dermatology is number one. Almost 43 or 44% of the top 10 most expensive visits are dermatology. So that's where we can have the greatest impact, where there's a huge difference between costs and where the cost of the visit's already expensive, in a state and a location where there are a lot of HSA cash customers. So we're starting there, and we're going to use a lot of our funds for that and expanding that, and then to Texas, which has the second highest. That's where the investor funds will come in the expansion phase and in developing the platform phase, to go from a platform where we aggregate, where we encourage users to give their to show how much they paid for a certain procedure, to also include more physicians and more doctors, and then encouraging doctors to give us a guaranteed amount, so we don't just give a range. So all of that is going to be what we will do with the investor funds.
So if I were an investor, and a lot of venture capitalists, the good thing that a lot of people don't realize about venture capitalists is they will help you. Now that I've given you some of my money, I will give you some of my contacts. I will give you introductions. It's one of the benefits you get for free. You're also going to get my unsolicited advice. So here comes the next question.
There we go.
How coachable are you? Now that my money owns some of your company, how receptive are you going to be to me getting into your business, literally?
Yeah. So a great thing about venture capitalists, from what I understand, is they usually like to invest in fields they're most familiar with. And we, being a startup, are very nimble, adapt very easily. We want to learn to change. That's why phase one is R&D. So we're researching and developing, and that involves learning and changing. And these VCs, which are very familiar with the industry, combined with our ability to change so quickly and adapt to things we learn, are a perfect combination. If they don't provide guidance about changes and learning, then we're going to solicit it. We're going to ask, what do you think we should do at this point? We're going to run the company, of course, but we are very much encourage feedback, and we'd like to learn so we can change in the right direction. So that's what the entire phase one is about.
Another thing about venture capitalists is sometimes you go into a venture capital fund, otherwise known as a VC fund. So the venture capitalist is looking for you to do well because he has underlying investors who have given him the money that he's giving to you. So he's answering to someone else. Typically, a lot of these venture capital funds need to give a return within 5 years. So there's a clock ticking on you that you need to make money in 5 years and exit or sell. Because as much as a venture capitalist likes you and likes your idea, they need to cash out. So tell me about the exit. How are you going to sell this business, make a lot of money at it? What's the exit in 3 to 5 years?
Right. So and you'll see in the financial plan, we are cash positive in 2 years. We could really cash out any time after that, of course, because we break even after that. But you want to wait until there's significant growth. So in 5 years, or even 4, there's the IPO. We could, if we stay in it, of course, go public.
And for our viewers, can you define IPO?
So it's an initial public offering. It's basically going public with the company.
This is when you become a stock, and I can buy it on the stock exchange.
Exactly. So shares are available to the public. You can essentially buy stocks in the company. And if we don't, the buyback, we can either sell to a friendly buyer, which is after 3 years. So we also are open to a convertible note. So it depends really on the VC and how friendly the buyer is. But we are very flexible in those terms. We are more excited about working with the venture capitalists and learning together and adapting than exactly the kind of deal that'll go down the line. The VCs are partners. We want to work on something that will benefit both of us, where they get a return and we want to make an impact on the healthcare market. So that can be, that's very flexible. That's something we are focusing much more of our energy on developing this than how we're going to leave it.
Interesting answers. I think it's a cool idea. What's your gut tell you? How do you feel about this?
It's huge. It's definitely. I don't even have to. I'm big on intuition. I like to go in the direction where I feel is right, but we don't even have to guess now because we got direct feedback from physicians that say they're tired of jumping through hoops, billing through insurance, um, getting it sent back because of some error on the document or they didn't fill out the right code or whatever it is, and then having to submit it a second time. In addition to the fact that they now have to hire or train somebody in the office that can jump through these hoops and knows the insurance lingo and bill multiple times. And for those that aren't paying, to bill it the first time, the 30 days late, the 60 and 90, 120 plus days late, that's each time sending it out. And so they billed $200 originally, and because of all the overhead, they're getting a small fraction of that. So if they can get almost a small fraction of that, a little less for the incentive, but a little less than what they're going to get anyway today, they end up taking it. Some doctors have already converted their practices. One in New York is all cash, not even taking insurance payments. So we don't have to guess intuitively about how the field is going to be. The doctors are already, that's the limiting factor. We have patients that want to know, absolutely patients want to know where they should go, how much everybody is, and who's better than the other. The question is, are doctors willing to give a discount to get cash today rather than some higher requested amount later? And the higher requested amount, even doctors who think they get it, we have internal tools that we provide to them that show them that higher amount that you're hoping for from the insurance company, you know you don't get it. You know you don't even get, you hardly get a fraction of it. If we gave you almost the amount you will get anyway today, would you just give the discount? And the overwhelming answer is yes. They would much rather have that today than jump through the hoops for a potentially slightly higher amount later. So yeah, I mean, intuitively, it sounds right, but we don't have to guess because the answer on both sides is let's do it. They can't wait.
So you're hitting 2 points that we teach in the Harvard class, that you are disrupting an industry
Sure. Yeah.
with innovation.
Yeah.
We love that.
Yeah.
We like that. For my final question, what was a question I should have asked you that I didn't, that the viewers need to hear?
Yeah, that might be your toughest question. So
I had to get you on something.
yeah. So, and this shows our where our R&D phase will come into play the most, because it's not our strongest suit. It's something that we're working on the most. The weakness, if you will, is that how do we get the real data, the real cost data of the users? I mean, how do they know if you're going somewhere and I'm telling you know how much everybody is? How do you know how much you're paying otherwise with your current plan? And you don't. You have to jump through hoops to get that kind of price. You don't just say, how much are you going to charge me for a visit? Doctors usually say, well, we'll bill you, and whatever insurance doesn't pay you, the rest will go to you. So what we ask ourselves is, this question you're asking, how do we know, how will we tell patients how much they are paying if they don't use our service? That's the big question. How do you know if you don't use our service how much you'll be paying? So that's where we differentiate from everybody else. We don't just tell you on average how much they're billing. Because what if we tell you everybody in your area is, this one's 1 to 200, this one's 150 to 175. What if you just have some plan where yours only charges 100? How do you know if you're saving by using our service? So we need to know specific information about the plan to let the user know, with your current plan, you'd be paying this for this doctor, and they're willing to, if you want to pay cash, take this much today. So that's our initial phase, getting the real data about how much they're paying, which is a huge industry secret, which are finding, obviously, a way to make transparent.
So you share with us your Achilles heel. We
Yeah.
all have one.
Yeah, that's the biggest part. That's why it would be different than the rest. It is a disruptive industry. Medibit is another company that's applying a type of Priceline model to this industry, where you bid on a procedure, you type in, I want a hip replacement, and some doctor in Minnesota responds back saying, I can give you this much. I can, you're looking for hip replacement 15,000, and the doctor says, I'll take it. So it's a bidding process. You have to travel far. It's only for very few procedures. We don't think that's the general way to go. We think people want more local results, and we provide much more local results, but slightly outside your area, not too far. And a lot of business periodicals called that company a disruptive innovator, and they are, and we certainly are as well. We have two completely different methods, and in our first phase, that is what we are focusing on, getting the real data, so we're able to tell patients how much they uniquely are saving, and also which allows them to book the appointment directly with the physician in the same application.
What I think I like best about your business is you're helping people. It is for profit.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to enrich yourself.
Right.
I understand that. We live in a capitalist society.
Right.
But one of the side effects is you're helping people get more transparent health care at a better price.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I asked you to be my first guest on the first show.
It's a pleasure. I hope we definitely will make an impact. We're starting small, but we're very excited about helping people. It's just not fair that people save up so much at the beginning of the year and have no idea where to spend it. So we're happy to help.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and I'd like to invite you back in 6 months.
Yes.
So that everyone in TV land can see how you're going, what worked, what didn't work, and we'll just check in and see how you're doing.
I can't wait. I'm very excited about it.
Thanks again for coming on the show, and take care, everyone.
Thank you for having me.